Um, I wanted to do this one before I forgot. I don't know. I saw a "Let's Go Brandon" sticker on a road sign. You know, like the back of like a, I don't know, speed limit sign or whatever. I was at a light, and I was thinking about, like, I've been reading this book about the collapse of the Soviet Union, and I'm like, man, like, I'm thinking about what would a book about the collapse of the United States look like? Because the guy who wrote The Collapse of the Soviet Union, the historian, it's like so well done and so detailed. And now I'm thinking about like in 50 years when people look back on like America's downfall, which I'm pretty confident we're headed in the downfall direction. You know, what are people going to write about? Like, I really think they're going to write about the Biden era as like a really defining moment because, you know, there was all this hope of like, you know, a return to normal. You know, like there was the first Trump administration, and I would say it was a little bit bizarre at times, but nothing too horrific up until COVID. And COVID, it's really debatable, you know, if you could even blame that on Trump. There were a lot of bad things about Trump term one. Soleimani, you know, being probably the biggest, and leaving the JCPOA, moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, providing lethal weapons to Ukraine, you know, the trade war with China, which was a ridiculous waste of time. Offset some of that with the North Korea diplomacy. That was a positive, but yeah, I would say, like, you know, there's a lot of negatives, but nothing catastrophic till COVID. And it's hard to say how much of that was really on Trump. You know, it was like a bad circumstances mixed with like a bad response, and then, you know, an even worse reversal. You know, conflicting, chaotic, just not the right person in charge for that to happen. That's what it felt like. Again, not saying, you know, I'm saying Biden or anyone else would have done it better, but yeah, at the time it felt like, oh man, you know, we really feels like we have a lunatic, you know, at the helm here, and maybe we need a return to normal. I didn't like Biden, I didn't vote for him, but I understood that angle pretty well. And do I think the election was rigged? I mean, you know, look, it's a little bit irregular, like the number of votes, you know, for sure. It's like more people voted than ever in history. How many of those votes were mail-in ballots? You know, there's questions. I also can believe that Trump just lost, though, you know, based on the circumstances. So I don't really know. And, you know, at this point, it doesn't matter anyway. But the point is, like, you know, I can understand why we elected Biden. And I think for everybody, even the Trump supporters, a lot of them, you know, it was like, okay, this is going to be like a return to normal. This would be like a return to Obama or Clinton or, you know, the standard kind of stuff. And, man, like, what a mess the Biden administration was. And it was bad enough that it destroyed his approval rating. And his destroyed approval rating led to, it was one of a few factors that led to him being dropped from the re-election bid and replaced with Kamala Harris, who lost because she was a terrible candidate. And, you know, also she was basically riding Biden's coattails into the abyss because of, you know, their, they presided over the Gaza genocide. You know, I would also argue the Ukraine war, you know, I probably get some pushback there from some people, but put some of that on Biden, absolutely. So, yeah, it was so bad that we wanted Trump back, which is just unheard of in a lot of ways, especially considering it's Trump. But, you know, we got Trump 2, and Trump 2 is like way worse, you know, in every way. So, yeah, I mean, I really feel like we're moving down this path of like, you know, I don't know, though. Then again, like, I could always be wrong. I mean, I'm black. I become black-pilled or very negative on things pretty quickly. You know, I also thought the Iran war was for sure going to, you know, reignite at any moment. That hasn't happened. I don't know. Like, I tend to think negatively. I thought there would be a recession 2 years ago. That never happened. It sort of looks like we're building towards that now. But yeah, I mean, they tend to overrate how bad things will be. And then I'm pleasantly surprised if they're not. So hopefully, you know, like the decline of America, I don't know. Part of me feels like, what does that even mean? You know? But I just feel like we're on a downward trend and I don't see that reversing, you know? So I think people are going to look back in the future, you know, at this time period and say, like, yeah, the collapse of the United States started with the Biden administration. And, you know, in a lot of ways, the Obama administration. Because that's how he ended up with Trump. And Trump was like the beginning of the end, I would say, because, you know, he'll leave office, but I don't know. Like maybe President J.D. Vance will like save us all, save the day. I doubt it, but maybe it's possible. So, yeah. Whatever. Affairs.